the offense is different every year based on what you have. What do you think you have, and how might you respond to that?
You look at you go through the whole season from last year, and the obvious one is Max is no longer there, so the quarterback is going to be different. So you look at what you have in the quarterback room, and within every offense, you start it with that position. That's the hardest position, in football and sports, and it starts with that guy, and then it goes from there. It trickles down to the offensive line and your running backs, your skill, your tight ends, and once you figure that out, you kind of design it that way. And I think I'll probably get into it at some point, but I think we just have to look and see over these next 15 practices and 3 to 4 weeks how all of our guys grow within what we're trying to do schematically. How much they know, how much they can have learned over the course of the winter. My whole thing that I'm attempting to achieve during this spring ball is how hard can I challenge them and how much can I make the offense fail, and see what they do when they fail. If they're failing a ton at one particular thing, how can I adjust and make the offense better? And then are they doing something that is really a strength of theirs, then how can I highlight that even more? I'm excited about what we're doing offensively. I know at some point you guys will get a chance to see it, but I'm very excited about what we're doing. It will look different, but I could be standing up here 365 days from now, and I'm going to say it's going to look different because I think good offenses every single year look at what their players are good at and how is it going to adapt to that. No offense is the same every single year. If an offense looks the same every year, then I don't think coaches are working to evolve.
What are some of the offenses that you were able to study here this offseason?
So every year I really enjoy watching the NFL. I think that when you put on our tape and if you sat in our meeting room, you could see that it's designed around the quarterback, number one, and then I put a lot on the quarterback position. And when I set out on this journey a couple years ago with everyone, I wanted it to look a certain way. And that was over years of studying different teams. It started with studying Kyle Shanahan's system, Sean McVay's system, the whole thing from that, because I wanted to be myself, but I wanted to also be a little bit different. And then this year, I've always been a big fan of Ben Johnson. And when I studied, I had the opportunity to meet him back in 2018 when I was at Chattanooga. He was the assistant receivers coach for the Dolphins, and I kind of tracked his career. And then I've probably watched every single snap of his entire career, as he called it, in Detroit. And obviously he's now with Chicago. And, I've always liked how he put so much on the quarterback. You can tell how much that their quarterbacks do at the line of scrimmage. You can tell how much our guys do at the line of scrimmage. It's even more now. We did a lot with Max last year. It's only going to grow. Dylan was in the system last year. Drake was in the system last year. And then Zach is obviously new to it, but he's been at it for 2 months. And I put a lot on that guy. But I've watched Detroit. They're the team that I watched probably the most. And then the team, I always pick a different team each year that, had success. And I broke down a ton of the Tampa Bay Bucks. I looked at them from the standpoint of I looked at two different things. Number one, I know with an inexperienced quarterback, we're going to have to be very, very good in the run game. And that's going to be a point of emphasis. Just like last year, a huge point of emphasis was the passing game. I thought at times when I first called it, we struggled in the passing game, and I wanted to make that a big point of emphasis last spring. Well, now every single year is different, and we have to be able to, number one, run the ball very effectively because everyone's going to look at us. We don't have a quarterback, and that's one thing that I know within an inexperienced offense. I want to be able to run the football, and that's what Coach Fleck's philosophy anyway it starts with. And I think that that's exciting because I looked at two different things. I look at completion percentage, and then I look at rushing stats. And the Bucs were fourth in the NFL in rushing. Baker Mayfield was one of the top in the NFL at 74% completion percentage. And so I looked at, once I saw those numbers, then I started looking at, okay, let me start to break all them down and see what they're doing offensively. And then I looked at, okay, what can we add? What can we tweak? What can we make new to fit within what we do and highlight our players' skill sets?
Do you think, Greg, that the depth and maybe the nature of the talent, along with what you're talking about with running, that we might see more running from the quarterback than in the past? Not a criticism, but the Gophers have been kind of cautious in running their quarterbacks in the past.
I think it all. I think it all depends on the skill set of the quarterback. You know, they're if the quarterback is athletic and that's his skill set, he's going to run the football. It just all depends. Obviously, I love our running back room. I love the guys we added. Obviously, Darius is coming back. He's been well documented throughout the offseason as a big time running back coming back. I want the ball in his hands when we're running the football. I want the ball in the other guy's hands when we're running the football. Like, it just depends on what we're good at. It also goes up to the offensive line over these next 4 weeks. Okay, we have to see what is our offensive line going to do well, whether it's the outside zone, mid zone, inside zone, gap scheme stuff. Like, it's just going to depend on, okay, how does this offensive line develop and grow over these next few weeks, because that's a different group up front too. Experienced, but it's a different group.
Speaking of the run game, it was inconsistent at best last season.
Yeah.
So when you sat down with Callahan here over the last few months, what have you guys kind of figured out about how to fix the running game consistency?
I think it goes back to self-scout. You have to look at it, and everyone looks at just the result week to week. Okay, did we rush over 100 yards? Did we have success? Was our yards per carry over 4 yards? At times it was, at times it wasn't. And I said this to Brian at one point. I think during January we were recruiting, and the first thing I sat down and started to look at from our season was the run game. And when you look at it, because when I look at the cut-ups, I don't look at it just from a scheme standpoint. I look at it from the North Carolina game all the way to the Virginia Tech game, in that order of how we called the plays and how we called the run schemes. And if you watch it by that order, you watch it from start to finish, game 1 to game 13, we improved in areas that maybe weren't seen by just if you were just watching the game or you just watched it one time. And that's where I saw encouragement. Was we took huge strides as the season went on the outside zone. And we added different things in the run game as well. It didn't always hit. I think back to the Illinois game. We ran the ball extremely effective in that game. I think the next week we turned around again. I think it was against Rutgers. We didn't run the ball very well. So it was looked at, okay, why did that happen? Why are the inconsistencies? Some of it might be on me with the play call. Some of it might be execution. And I had to look at all of that. I think when we look at the run schemes that we did last year, we really had to see, okay, what do we need to tweak? We needed to tweak certain things with the running back, with how he was running the football, maybe what his track is on every single run, where his eyes were. Then the same thing with the offensive line, the tight ends. Okay, what's the track of their first 2 steps? Where is their eye placement? Okay, can we add different things where maybe we ID a different backer or push it to something based off of what the scheme is? It just depends on that type of thing. And I think that's where Callie and I, and even Coach Kaler, obviously, and now with the addition of Coach Everett, like, we all looked at that and how we can make the run game better. And again, just like everything within our whole offense, there's points of emphasis. One thing that's going to be a point of emphasis is growing the quarterback into whoever that may be, getting that guy those types of reps that he needs, and then also taking a point of emphasis on running the football and running the ball effectively and into the right looks.
What are some of the core elements you first start developing when you're working with a new or a young QB?
I think it's different with each guy. My approach with Drake was just continue to grow him. I think he took huge strides from spring ball last year to where he's at right now. And a lot of that is because he had a great guy in front of him that he could learn from with Max, which I know all of you know. Zach was totally different. I had to start ground zero. Me and Keegan O'Hara had to sit down, and we had to go from start with the formations, snap count, go all the way up, and now he is caught up to speed on all of that now. And then Dylan's the same way, where Dylan is, okay, he was in it, but he's a few months behind Drake. So all of them are in different areas of experience. This is why I say this, and I'll go back to what I said earlier about inexperienced quarterback. Doesn't mean they're not good. It means that, like, okay, so last year I could sit there and I could drop back with Max whenever I wanted to, because everyone thinks the offensive line is just the protection piece of it. Well, Max had seen so much football that he had seen different particular coverage looks where he knew, okay, I could change the ID with the protection scheme. I could get the slide this way based off of what he's seen. An example of that would be not necessarily protection, but the touchdown pass he threw against Rhode Island down the right sideline to Lemecki on a go. That was completely out of the progression for him. He had seen that 3 years ago when he played Rhode Island when he was at New Hampshire. The exact same coverage, exact same situation, threw the exact same ball. It was just a receiver at New Hampshire. It happened to be Lemecki Brockington 3 or 4 years later. Drake, Dylan, Zach haven't played a ton. So now they haven't had the experience where every single rep that they're going to take throughout spring ball, every single rep whoever takes that in the fall is going to be gaining reps every single time they're out there. And so they might see field pressure. It could be the first time they see field pressure, okay? They bank that rep. They don't get to slide into it, okay? They see boundary pressure. They don't see that. They see it the next time. They execute it properly. That's the difference between maybe having an experienced quarterback and an inexperienced quarterback, which goes back to the original question of what's the offense going to look like? It's going to be based off of the quarterback. You have to get the quarterback those reps before you can start to evolve and adapt based off of what scheme you want to run.
What's impressed you with your new wide receivers since
Yeah,
January?
I'm impressed. I like them all. I think you talk about Malachi, Javon, and Logan. You talk about the guys in the room. Like, I'm really excited about the growth of that room. I think Javon and Logan, they've obviously played a ton of football. And Malachi, man, you're gonna see him, and he's got some freaky tendencies to him. He's cool to see. He can run, he can catch. Javon, experienced just like Logan. I love Logan's feel out there when we see him when we're going through the walkthroughs. Javon the same way. Javon's very intelligent. So is Logan. And then you look at the guys in the room too. Lemecki's done I've been most impressed with Lemecki all the way from when we started bowl prep and how he's consistently grown every single day, catching the football, leading the group, and he leads in a different way. Max Brosmer would get in there and vocally lead. Lemecki's not the same way. He's going to lead by example, and he's done that with that group. Love Christian Driver's development. I could go on and on. Kenrick, Jalen, Nuke, all those guys, I've seen them take huge steps. It's just going to see now. I've said to the offense, we've done an awesome job over the last 2 months of mentally preparing ourselves through the walkthroughs, through our meetings, and now we got to go out there, we got to catch, we got to run the ball, we got to throw it, we got to block people, and we have to execute. And I think we're really doing a nice job of that and how we're growing the offense.
Greg, how much time might you expect to spend with Coy this spring, and how might you feature him going forward?
He's a pretty good player, so I'll work with him.
Take one or two more from Coach, if there are any.
How do you view the offensive line right now? PJ was up here talking about how there's going to be 4 new starters up there, plus Greg might be moving to a different position. How do you view the job that Brian's got ahead of him these next 6 months?
It's like every year. I mean, last year was unique because we had some experience coming back, but that's what we're here for. I think it's fun. It's a fun challenge. My challenge is different than Callie's. Eric's job's different than Matt's. It's fun to see. I think you look at our line and Greg, Ashton, like you talk about experience and reps. Like I could talk about that guy for a half hour about how I've seen him grow. All those reps he gained last year are critical for his development because there's no such thing. There's nothing more than the game rep. I mean, the game rep is so important, and I've seen him just mentally take the next step. And I love the guys we brought in. The young guys, Nathan Roy's developing. I mean, Marcellus, the guy we brought in, Dylan we brought in. I'm just so excited about those guys. Khalil, like I can't be more excited about those guys that are fitting in. I've seen Aluma grow, and I think we just have to come together. We have to find out what they can do well, and I think once we do that, we'll be able to adapt. And I talked to the offense about this the other day. It's a process, and at times last year I looked at it. Each year you learn something. The first spring I learned a ton, just in really how to lead other young men, and really lead a staff. And then the next year, I was in a good place, but then we had ups and downs. Quarterback was coming up. It was all centered around him. Everyone else kind of was into the system. And we had ups and downs as we went through spring ball. This year, it's just really going to be a process, too, and I'm already have my head set on that. Like, every day, I just want the guys to take a 1-0 approach on every play. And if we do that, we'll just keep getting better day by day. And then we'll see where we're at, end of April. And then once that hits, we'll adjust in the summer and then get ready for training camp. But if you start to look too far ahead, I think you get caught up and then you don't see the growth that you're actually doing. And then you maybe start to miss something. And then it's too late come the fall. Right now is just as important as game 8 today. That's what I told the guys. And they have to have that approach when they step in the building today.
Final one for coach, or is everyone all set?
How much do you see the intelligence with this offensive unit? PJ was talking about this as starting off as a smart football team overall.
Yeah, we have a lot of offense in right now, which excites me. I keep putting it on them. I'm not shy. If they continue to handle it, the thing I've been encouraged about is when we've gone throughout our walkthroughs is we aren't making mental errors that you would think, okay, play's supposed to go left and they step right. We're not making those mistakes where past offenses, when you first go out there, they make those mistakes. It's normal. Every offense in America has those mistakes. But we've put more on them. We've adjusted and evolved, and they've run with it. And I can't thank our players enough or give them enough credit. They'll never get the credit they deserve, or as much as they deserve, I should say, with how much we put on them offensively. It's grown so much in 2 years, and I think they enjoy it now. Like, they love coming into the meeting and seeing what they have to learn that day and then what they have to go execute. And it's fun. They're a fun group to coach. I'm very excited for today. I just think it's going to be fun just to see where the quarterbacks are right now to what they look like in a few weeks, and then what they look like at the end of spring ball. And that goes for every position. But it's gonna be fun. I'm really looking forward to it. I know the guys are too.
All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Coach.
Thanks.
We'll have Coach.
Danny, what does it mean to you to kind of be standing here as the defensive coordinator?
Yeah, well, first off, it's an honor and a privilege to be the defense coordinator here at the University of Minnesota. Been here for a long time. I've been with Coach Fleck for a long time. For him to give me this opportunity, it means the world to me. This has been something that I've been dreaming of my whole entire life, that I'm ready for, ready to attack it, and just really ready to get started.
What continues to talk about the Havoc defense that you're going to be running here? Is that an acronym? Does it stand for something, or what is the?
Yeah, so the Havoc defense, the first thing is it's controlled chaos. So that's what it is that's the Havoc defense. The H is for the how. How we play is going to be different here. I want people to be proud of the defense that we put on the field. I want people that have played here, the alumni that have played here, the alumni that have went here, the fan base, right? I want them, when they watch Minnesota defense, to be proud of how we play the game, right? How you do one thing's how you do everything. I learned that at a very young age, and that's how I operate in my life, and that's how the defense operates. So that's the H. The A is attack. We're going to be attacking style defense. We're going to attack people from the jump, from the start. And when we do that, we're going to do that with violence. That's the V. We play a violent game. We're going to be a violent defense, and we're going to do that together as one. That's the O. I think being together and playing together, that's a great makeup of a defense. A great defense plays together as one, and you can see that. You can see that in the celebrations together. You could see that how we play the game together, rush and coverage, working just the pass rush, right? How are we going to get to the quarterback together, right? How is the coverage going to work together, right? That's huge for us. And then the last one, the C, is compete. We're going to compete in everything we do. When we compete within ourselves, right? Want to be better than we were yesterday. We want to compete with our teammates to get them better as well. And then eventually in the fall, we'll compete against our opponents. So that's what Havoc is.
Do you see the defense being a little bit different schematically, Danny, from last year?
Yeah, I think every year, depending on personnel of what you have personnel-wise, that's kind of how you develop the defense. I've been fortunate to work with a lot of great coordinators. You know, Coach Russ, he was here, did an excellent job. You know, and Coach Heatherman did an awesome job last year as well. You know, so I know what great defense looks like. But at the end of the day, it goes back to the players, right? What can our current players do? And I think the advantage of, you know, not bringing in another coordinator is I know exactly what we have here, and I've recruited these guys, know exactly how they play the game and how exactly we can plug them into a scheme to create that havoc defense.
What are some of your goals for the defense as you come into spring ball here, just with install player development?
Yeah, you know, I think going back on just in terms of, you know, the knowledge part of it, you know, we're at a part where right now we're further ahead than we've ever been. I mean, right now in practice we got about 75% of first and second down in already, which is way further ahead than we've been. So I'm excited about that in terms of the knowledge of this defense, right, and continuing to take those steps. I think we have an excellent coaching staff, elite group of guys that a lot of these guys have, you know, been here for a long time. A guy like Mariano's played in the system and played on this defense, so understands what it takes to win at Minnesota. So I think just continuing to take the next right step, you know, is the number one goal. But we're going to work to stop the run, neutralize the pass, eliminate explosive plays, and then create takeaways and be elite tacklers.
With Wally, Ethan, and Jack all heading off to the NFL, how do you view corner and nickel heading into the spring?
Yeah, you know, those are really elite players that are going to be, you know, go on to the National Football League. And anytime you have players that go to the National Football League, you always have the question of how do we replace them? Well, you know, it's the same way same questions were asked with what happens when Antoine Winfield leaves. You know, you replace him with a guy like Tyler Nubin. Well, what happens when Nubin leaves, right? Now we have an All-American, you know, with freshman Coy Parrish. There's going to be guys that are going to step up, and we're really excited about that. You know, guys like Z and JB that we brought in. You got Mike Gerald. You got Ryland, Evan Redding. Like all these guys are great players that are waiting for their opportunity, and that's the cool thing about spring is you get to have that opportunity. You know, we're in a very similar spot this year with corner that we were with safeties last year, you know, where there was kind of a question mark of inexperience going into the year. Once we get to the fall, I don't see that as inexperience anymore. You know, you gain the experience through winter, through spring ball, and then training camp. And that's how you continue to gain that, and that's what we'll continue to do with those guys.
You have Coy with another year under his belt and another year in the program. What type of advantage does that take?
Yeah, you know, it's huge for him to continue to take that next step. He's a guy that loves football. You know, he breathes football. Everything he does is circled around this game. He came here to be an elite safety here, and you can see what he's able to do on the field. And the cool thing about it is it's not just him. You know, we have a room of safeties that are tremendous players. You got guys like Kerry Brown, Aiden Gooseby, Darius Green, Giante McMillan. Like all of these guys together, right, are making each other better. You know, Coy couldn't have been Coy last year without Kerry. Kerry couldn't have been Kerry without Coy, right? And it's fun to see those guys continue to grow. But I'm really excited to take that next step with Coy this year.
I mean, PJ mentioned earlier that, you know, there's so many new faces coming in. It's like with the portal and everything, you have so many new faces. Where's the happy medium between sticking with your philosophy, but like you said earlier, in terms of adjusting to your personnel, like how much more difficult does that make a coach's job with how much you have to adjust?
Yeah, ultimately it's our job to make sure that the scheme allows our players to play fast, right? So, you know, you get guys in recruiting and you develop them, right? That's the best case scenario because they're in the system, right? At some point, we're going to need to plug holes and things like that and get guys from the portal, right? Those are the situations where now I need to design a defense and the staff needs to design a defense that is able to have those guys play fast. So I think there's a happy medium, but at the end of the day, we've always been a developmental program here. You know, I think we've done an excellent job with the portal, you know, in terms of exactly who to bring in here too, right? And that's, the great thing about me being with Coach Fleck for 13 years is I know exactly what works at this program and exactly how we operate here. And when you're in the living room with a young man and, you know, you just know if he fits or doesn't. You know, you have guys like Jack Henderson that fits the program, right, that we're able to bring in and he's able to be productive for us. You know, Ethan Robinson, guys like that, that have done a great job.
Do you
Speaking of
say-
transfer additions, you brought in a couple along the defensive line. How would you describe those guys and where do you think they can contribute?
Yeah, you got guys like Rashawn Lawrence and Steven Curtis and those guys that have come in that, what we're going to do in the spring is we're going to experiment and kind of move guys around and plug guys here and there to see what best works. Once again, it's about the personnel of the defense before it's the scheme. I'm not a guy that has this secret playbook that I've had for 13 years, and this is how we're doing it, right? There's a group of guys that are incredible players that we're gonna cater the defense to. So however that looks with the D line, we have a lot of returners back to with that group. Guys like Devin Eastern and Anthony Smith and guys that I think Jalen Logan Redding. Those are guys that are some of the best defensive linemen in the Big Ten. Not only Big Ten but the country, right? So excited to take those transfer portal guys and mix these guys together to get productive in terms of inside.
You say to the kids at some point, our goal is we're not going to give up more than 20 points a game. We give up 20 points or less, we're going to win a lot of football games. You ever?
Well, at the end of the day, we have, like I said, our three main goals: stop the run and neutralize the pass. What does that actually mean? Stop the run. We have data that we have tracked now for years and years and years that if you hold a team to under 100 yards rushing, you win 90% of the football games, right? If we hold a team under 200 yards passing, neutralize the pass, win 85% of the games. Right, so that's number one for us. Eliminate explosive plays. We define explosive play as 25 yards or more. Right, we give up 2 or less, we're awesome. We're giving up around 14.7 points a game, which puts us in the top 10 in the country. Right, if we give up just one more, that number more than doubles. Right, to 30, 32, 33. Right, so those are the top 2 for us, and then creating takeaways. I mean, the turnover margin is the greatest stat in football. Coach Fleck says all the time, you win the turnover margin, you win 78% of the games. Right, so you plug those 3 things in there, right, and then add tackling to that. Well, you win all those battles, you're going to give yourself a great opportunity to win the game. So we don't necessarily put a point number on it. It's more focused on those goals that will end up, creating the points that we need to give up.
How much of a difference will it be for you as you get ready for the season to, instead of being a guy who offers some advice on calling a defensive play, you will be now the guy deciding what play to run every down? Does that change how you prepare? And 2, how much you're looking forward to the opportunity to get into a game and do that?
Yeah, it's fun to work with the staff. I did have an opportunity to call in the bowl game, right? So that was the first real experience of truly game planning, figuring out exactly what we wanted on the call sheet, and then calling it in the game, right? That was the first true experience of that. It's been really fun to get with the defensive staff right now and just offer opinions. And like at the end of the day, there's one guy that makes the decision, but this is not just my defense, right? This is, when we started this whole thing, we said this whole defensive staff, like, this is our defense, right? The guys playing, like, this is our team, right? So it's not just about me. It's not about one guy. It's about everybody.
When it comes to Emmanuel Carmo, obviously he's a true freshman. Where's he going to be at on the defense, and kind of likelihood might he contribute this fall?
Yeah, right now he's working at linebacker right now, and he's a guy that brings a versatility to him. I think he's got a really, really bright future, and I'm really excited about him. He's got ability to rush the passer, so third down and things like that, he could become very valuable for us as well. So he's a guy that works extremely hard. He's been doing a lot of unrequired stuff in terms of the learning process, PowerPoints, things like that, just extra film work and going forth with that stuff. So I'm really excited to see his development this spring. I'm glad he came here early.
Take 1 or 2 more for Coach.
You mentioned this being your dream. Where did your passion for football first start?
Yeah, I went to my first football game when I was 3 years old, my dad. So 3 years old, went to my first game. Now, I don't remember that game, but I keep that ticket stub in my pocket every single game day. That's when I fell in love with football. Ever since I was a little kid, 7 years old. You got guys that dream about playing in the National Football League and all that stuff. I dreamed of being a coach and coach at the college level. I always loved the relationship part about it. I love the tradition part of it. So to be here, like that dream's been for a long time. And a lot of people told me I was delusional. You're not going to play college football. How are you going to be a college football coach? You don't have, your dad's not a college football coach. How are you going to do that? And the more I listened, the more I realized that their question was my answer, and that's how. And how you do one thing's how you do everything, and that's why that's really big in that havoc as well.
Any more, or is everyone all set with Coach? All right. Thanks, Coach.
All right, thank you guys.